Um, Good evening, everyone, to the November 14th, 2023 Park and Recreation Commission meeting. As I have just stated, this meeting will be recorded, and that just started. Unfortunately, we have not reached an in-person quorum, which means that there will not be any items that the commission can act on via a vote. We don't have any discussion items that require a vote this evening. However, we will not be able to consider and adopt the meeting minutes from the last meeting. We will not be able to assign any commission members to letters or any other potential assignments accordingly. And also, any commissioners that are joining us online will not be able to participate at this meeting until we reach in-person quorum. We will need one more member of the PRC in order to do so. So with that, I will begin by sharing with you the rules. So again, good evening and welcome to the Park and Recreation Commission hybrid meeting for this month. My name is Marco Rivero and I am the staff liaison to the PRC. I would like to remind our attendees that the PRC meeting will be recorded, and that has started just a few minutes ago. We ask that commissioners, presenters, and attendees please mute your microphones and turn off your video feeds if you are not speaking. For those attending via telephone, you can mute and unmute your microphones by dialing *6. The top toolbar contains a raise your hand function in case a commission member or presenter has a question during the meeting. And again, for those commissioners that are joining virtually, you will not be able to participate until we do have an in-person quorum. Commissioners and presenters may share their screens using the share content box above. The chat box will also be checked routinely, mainly to address logistical questions or issues during the meeting. And if at which time we do have an in-person quorum, we will take feedback from commission members online first, and then we will move on to the discussion in the room. As way of information, we will be holding a public comment period at the beginning of the meeting. Each public commenter will have up to 3 minutes for public comment, and I will signal to the speaker once time is up. Thank you very much, and I will turn it over to our vice chair.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I guess we're not actually in session, but we're here and we're going to talk to each other. So I guess we should get started with public comment.
Public comment, yeah. Okay. So we have joining us today, Neil Wills.
Please come forward. Or anywhere.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. The reason I'm here, I mentioned to you earlier, is to bring to your attention a special glove application that was submitted to Arlington County in June. I believe on June 29th, it was accepted following the day. It is a proposal by the Clarendon Presbyterian Church, which is on the west end of Lyon Village, to take the church and change its zoning from R5 open space to RA 818. And in their partnership with APA, which is Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, they'll be able to tap into additional density and height with that application. And they want to raise the church, which is a 100-year-old structure, fieldstone church, which is a bit of the centerpiece of that end of Lyon Village. Raise it and then build a multi-family structure. And in the process, it will eliminate the park that has been there for decades. That park is, and I don't believe in their application there's any proposal to replace the loss of open space. So that area is unique, and of course it's near the metro, which some people see it as a catalyst for increased density. But the Clarendon sector plan clearly shows the dividing line to be 13th Street, and this park is on the north side of 13th Street, and all the high density area was in the club is on the south side of 13th Street, which would violate the Clarendon sector plan that was reaffirmed, that was established in 2006. and reaffirmed by the county government board recently. And it would really destroy, we would be losing, in my opinion, a valuable resource, community resource that I know I have used, neighbors have used years. For children and increased density, there's now no public space in that area for these families. And, you know, opportunities like this don't come along very often. You know, there seems to be an ever shrinking supply of public space in Arlington County. At least that seems to be what I've experienced in my 23 years in the county. And I think it would be a shame to see this lost. I know that you're aware of it, of the project.
I'm sorry, that's time at 3 minutes.
And so anyway, I would just ask, thank you. I would just ask, as the Long Range Planning Commission, lead the community, ask respectfully that you be involved in the process, ask for a seat at the table, and provide your input on this very unique resource, which is this unique opportunity, which would.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate your time. Can you say your name one more time?
Yeah, Neil.
Neil. Say that 3 times.
Neil.
Will. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Will.
Thank you so much. I don't have any other public speakers that signed up previously, but if there's anyone else on the call from the public that would like to speak, we can accommodate that now.
Hi, this is Jean.
Jean, you're muted.
So Jean, we can't hear you. I don't think you're muted, but for some reason your audio is not functioning.
Is this better?
Oh, it's really quiet.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you very faintly, but we really can't hear you.
Okay.
You try to make maybe our speakers possibly.
Yeah.
It's quiet for this virtual as well.
Okay.
I'm so
could she
sorry,
call
I've
in?
got my volume turned up.
Jean, would you be able to call into the meeting? Or refresh your Teams as well? Maybe that might work.
Okay, I'm looking at the settings on, let me disconnect. and
Faintly
I'll-
here.
Yeah, I think it's just the audio. Maybe she can type her thing in the thing and someone else can read it aloud.
Actually, you know what?
That would take a long time.
Valid.
Chat is good.
She can't hear us either.
So Jean, if you can read the chat, we're recommending that you please refresh your Teams app or please call in using the phone number listed on the invitation for this meeting. Another thing we can do is we can come back for this public comment once we resolve any issues with the audio. Okay. So what we'll do is, are there any other public commenters on the line? I think we can get started on this.
Okay, I think the first presentation is the summer camp.
Yes. And we have Kim Baldini and Greg Anseline from DPR that are joining us.
Thank you for coming.
Hello, I'm going to should work.
We can't hear them either.
Can you
Can you hear me?
We can hear you both.
But it's faint. It's kind of faint.
Okay.
Yes,
That's better.
That's better.
Yeah, I will shout. That's a-okay. Tell me if you need it to be any bit louder. My name is Kimberly Baldini and I'm here with Greg Anseline today. I am the Youth Services Section Leader with Parks and Recreation Community Recreation Division. I oversee most of the DPR camps. We have a lot of camps, and I oversee a large chunk, and Greg, my counterpart, he oversees all of the contracted camps that occur in the county, which is growing rapidly by the day. And we're really excited. Marco asked us to come and share a presentation that he had seen us give before, recapping 2023 summer camp. I know it's a little hard because it's cold now and summer seems like a million miles away, but it's still fresh on our mind because as we're still recapping summer 2023, we are eagerly planning summer 2024. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well as we go through the presentation this evening. Let's get started. I hope I'll get started.
I have it really loud.
Maybe the voice.
Okay, so summer by the numbers is always our favorite slide. This summer we had over 15,175 enrollments, and that's 5,899 unique campers. And they enrolled in an average of 3 separate camps, or 3 weeks of camp as we call it. 3,801 were DPR camp enrollments. So those are DPR planned, managed, and staffed camps by county employees, and 11,374 camp enrollments with contractors, all of our partners in the community who help us provide camps. We had 4,246 open slots. The reason why we have open slots is sometimes camps don't fill or not at the right time or location or interest level. Greg and I joke that maybe we won't be offering business writing for youth next summer, you know, something like that. So we review those camps as well. And we had 2,931 waitlisted enrollments, which while it seems really high, last year we had 8,500 waitlisted enrollments. So we did a significant amount of work to be able to get that down. And one of the ways that we did do that is we revised the cancellation policy and put some real parameters around when people can withdraw from camps. So those can create slots for campers sitting on the wait list. And our registration staff did an amazing job really working those wait lists and getting kids into camp. Ooh. I don't know why my keyboard is like, I feel like our computers are possessed today. Okay, so a few 2023 camp highlights. As you all know, we embarked in a pretty large registration project in which we had focus groups and surveys that not only asked Arlingtonians about the registration process, we were also getting some programmatic feedback as well. And some of the big things that popped up on the DPR side were having programs that had nature focused. So this past summer, we had a nature play camp. The kids literally, if you look at the picture, literally played in the creek. It was a fun camp. It was a smaller camp, but they were outside all day and they worked with Long Branch Nature Center, and the naturalists there presented programs daily to them. And if you are a fan of the Nature Center, you might know Stumpy the Turtle. He was like their mascot. So that was a great camp. Mega camps. We know that our rec play camps, which are elementary age camps, are really, they're highly desired. They're a well-priced, high-quality program that operate from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so therefore, what we tried to do is we had 3 locations and we're expanding the numbers. We used to have 40, 50 kids in each camp, and we're trying to get up to 100, 120. We're continuing to try to raise our enrollment as well. We also saw the need for more teen camps. We always offered teen camps, but we really saw that we were missing those like 11 to 14-year-olds, pretty independent, not quite independent to be home 9 hours a day taking care of themselves camps. So camps, we had a travel camp that operated a few weeks a summer. This year operated all 8, and we had our summer adventure camp, expand slots, and operate all 8 weeks as well. And I'm going to kick it over to Greg to talk about registration.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Just first off, want to thank you all for having us here tonight to talk about summer camps. Registration, for many of you may remember, back in 2022, February, we had a system-wide technology fail during registration that had a huge impact on our customers and was a really negative experience for those. And it resulted in DPR doing a system-wide review of our processes, technology, and so we implemented several changes in summer of 2023. Some of the feedback that we received was based on timing, was not just a result of that system fail, but how can we do it better and different to make it more efficient? And so one of the things that we did was we changed registration from being all-encompassing, all registrations being processed on a single day, long wait times, and we split it out over 3 separate weeks. And the first week we offered a early enrollment or early access program where individuals or families with fee reductions, documented hardships, and then our adapted programs registered first. And that resulted in over 1,200 families or participants to be able to register and get into camps, and only 12 people waitlisted. And to ensure that we still had plenty of remaining spots, we capped it at a maximum of 25%. So we found some huge success in that area. Next, we then the following week, we opened it up for our contracted camp registrations. These are larger programs, sometimes not as Kimberly was talking about, some of our DPR programs that are highly sought after. So we first opened it up to some of our bigger programs and our contracted vendors. And then finally, the third week, we opened registration up to our DPR programs. The next step that we did is we changed the start time to 12 p.m. on a weekday. Before it was at 8 a.m. Parents trying to get kids ready for school, get off to school, get ready for work. It was a really inconvenient time. And through our public engagement process that we did after this incident occurred, that was one of the major things that we heard is trying to offer it at a better time that may be more convenient with less competing responsibilities. Sorry. And then finally, we made changes to how we managed our call centers and our registration process. We increased our call center to 100 lines open and implemented a 50-person interdepartmental team to handle calls, registration, and process registrations. This year, we will maintain that process. It was a huge success. And so we will maintain that process, and we'll be announcing our registration dates for summer 2024 in early December. Another area within our registration that we use to help accommodate as many families as possible is we identify several slots in our camps for what we call referral slots. These are referrals that we receive from APS or DHS, and where there's a critical need for these children to be able to enroll in camp and have these programs available. And however, with our early access enrollment, we found that need has gone down significantly to also have these referral slots. So we were able to adjust those, open up for this coming year, open up more spaces for our camps, and then but then still make sure that we can accommodate these important referrals. So as Kim mentioned earlier, I manage all of our contracted camps. We just concluded this summer our 2019 to 2023 camp RFP, and we solicited new vendors this summer and one of the changes that we made was that in the past we had our summer camp contract, which is what just ended, and then we had a separate agreements for vendors to offer break camps, which are school year out of time camps. And we combine those two to be able to have more efficient services and kind of roll through year to year. This RFP is open continuously. It's another change to where we review any vendors who have applied 3 times a year in August, October, and January. And we just closed our the solicitation, or we just closed the review for October and are currently out awarding bids now. So as Kim mentioned earlier, camp never ends. It's a year-round process for us, as a cyclical process where we go from review the previous year straight into planning for the next year. Currently, we are in the process of collecting all of our camp submissions. So any vendor internal programs, which includes Arlington Economic Development, Cultural Affairs, Police, Fire, anyone who runs camps submits their proposals to us, and we begin placing camps to prepare for upcoming registration and the camp catalogs. And as part of that planning, we cannot do without our coordination with Arlington Public Schools. We are in many schools throughout the entire summer, elementary, middle, high school facilities, and we work with them on a bi-weekly basis to plan efficient use of those spaces, and also build into summer school plans, high school sports, maintenance, and capital projects that that is their busy time to get done to prepare for the next school year. And so we have a great relationship that we work together with to ensure that we are utilizing all spaces throughout the county, and that it's efficiently utilized. And I will turn it back over to Kim now for registration dates.
Sure. So as we mentioned, our registration dates will be public and coming out next month. And so what we're doing right now is we're really working to make sure that those dates are going to work and that we are going to be able to have our systems ready and prepped to be able to meet those dates. In addition, we're starting to gear up to hire. I know my teams are getting ready to send their I hope you're enjoying your fall and winter, but we really want you to come back emails. And, one of the biggest challenges, Greg mentioned facilities, talking about what a big dance it is to be able to find space. Also for us, like hiring is a really big challenge. I'll tell you, last year it was better. And I hope this year it's even better. Right out of the pandemic, it was very challenging. So we're quite optimistic, and the county has also provides hiring bonuses and all sorts of other incentives to be able to get camp staff to come work with us. So you all will be seeing, and hopefully with our marketing that's on here as well, all of our summer camp jobs that we'll be hiring for. The summer activities fairs, in a partnership with APS, we're looking to hold that. We're working with them to hold it earlier this year to make sure that all of the camps can be presented prior to having all of the registration dates come out and be able to register for that as well. We're also working with Jerry Solomon, who is the new public relations director. She's been amazing and working what our marketing is going to look like to make sure we get information to everybody. We're especially working on having some of our information translated into 4 different languages in addition to English, so it'll be 5. And that will be like a 1-pager, but also like finding new and different ways to be able to make sure that everybody hears about our information and everybody's able to register. And we're also going to be working on several outreach events with some of our schools where the parents need it the most. So we are quite busy. I actually had summer camp meetings today. All of our staff are turning in their camp choices tomorrow. And so it never ends. But that's pretty much our presentation and our overview that we were asked to present. If you guys have any questions, we'd be more than happy to respond to them.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this presentation. I remember this presentation, similar presentation from last year. So it's much, much better news. So this is really, really heartening. I just had two questions. I'll ask them both and then you can decide how to answer. I was just curious in terms of where you have the camps and always looking for spaces. What is the relationship with Nova Parks? I know they both have buildings with bathrooms, but I've never seen camps there. And secondly, with respect to the registration and the early registration, if a family is, do you give scholarships? And if so, how does that work in the registration process if a family needs a scholarship to go to camp?
Yeah, I can answer the first or your second question regarding scholarship. So we offer what's called fee reductions, and so there's any family that receives free or reduced meal lunches are eligible to get fee reductions offered on a 50 or 75% reduction, and they just need to provide us with the information, and they become eligible, and it is good for a year, and then they'll have to renew that that fee reduction.
In addition to that, if there is a family that has a hardship and would need additional monies over the 75%, it may seem quite generous, but when you have 3 young children, it still seems insurmountable. You can apply for a hardship, and the registration office will work on that. There's also payment plans and other ways to be able to make sure that fees aren't a barrier. And I love your question about Nova Parks. I know that they provide some of their own camping programs depending on the park. And I don't think, Greg, that we have looked into that as an opportunity. I know we do visit them and we partake in their services. So we use them more as like a field trip site than a campsite, but that's a neat idea.
Yeah, I would encourage you to think it through because I'm a park steward at Upton Hill, which is a Nova Park. And a lot of people, we all get mixed up or in our silos, right? Because they're not an Arlington park, but legally it's a state authority, which Arlington owns 1/6 of, is an amorphous thing. So we do have rights, I would assert. So, give it some thought because there's some good resources there.
Nope, I actually worked for Nova Parks before I came here, so it is
you know
great.
better than anybody. You probably know which levers to push.
I've been here for a long time, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I had a couple questions about the vendor selection process. Maybe you can go back to those slides. Greg, could you explain again how it used to work? And then, if I understand it correctly, so now you talk about it being like an open enrollment, but then you said there's 3 times a year. I didn't quite get how that worked. So if you could explain that, and then also if a vendor with this combined process, summer and break camps, do vendors have to offer both, or can they still just offer one or the other?
Sure. Yeah. So the open enrollment is that we accept applicants or proposals at any time, and then we actually review them and award at 3 different times throughout the year. So if I apply now, I submit my proposal now, we will review it in January. But it is constantly open, advertised, and recruiting for vendors. So does that help clear it up a little?
Yeah, so your review process is 3 times a year, but people can submit any time. And then how does that, like, for example, if they were to submit now, does that mean that they would not be in the summer program for next year because you're not going to make a decision until January, or are they still, is it possible for them to get in there?
Yeah, so for the August and October enrollments, they are, or reviews are for the next for the upcoming summer, and then after that we'll begin. So if we review it in January, that would be begin next fall for break camps if they choose to offer it. I know the other question was if you have to do both, no, you could be just a break camp provider or just a summer camp provider or both. We ask them to submit their intentions as part of the RFP, but it is but you do not have to be both.
Okay, and then final question on that, in terms of the approval process, is there a set of criteria minimum they have to meet? I'm not asking you to tell me what all those are, but like what are the areas that they have to show in order to be able to get approved?
Yeah, so they have to show experience. They have to show they have it meets our needs, right? I don't want 30 soccer camp vendors. At a certain point we need some variety. It is a competitive bid process, and so it is not just because you submit a proposal does not automatically you are being awarded. They are graded based on a long list of criteria and committing to processes and procedures. So it's hard to go through that list because it is so
Yeah,
long.
I'm not asking you to do that.
But yeah.
Okay, and then finally, how long does it last? When they've been approved, how long are they?
Sure. It goes through up through 2028. We do have pending, if they are reviewed and evaluated on an annual basis. And so if there's someone that was not meeting our needs, of course, we do not have to provide camps for them, but it is good up through 2028.
So even if they submitted one in like fall of 25, that would only last until 2028.
Correct. And then it's a 5-year RFP.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good question. Thank you. Anybody else?
I do. I have a comment and a question. First, the comment, we've enjoyed the camps over the last few years. My son particularly enjoyed the nature play camp last year. I know he's had some grievances about some of the vendor camps, where he felt that it was a bait and switch, where they offer one thing and actually deliver something very different. But we've been very, very satisfied with that, particularly the nature play. I wanted to ask a question about the timing. One comment I've heard from some parents, particularly those that have multiple children, is how challenging it is and how you have to come up with spreadsheets practically to deal with the summer scheduling. And one thing I've heard is that Arlington's timing isn't aligned with some of the other neighboring jurisdictions, and that has created challenges as well. I don't know whether you all look into what Alexandria and Fairfax are doing and try to align up your deadlines so that so parents aren't having to go through additional hoops.
Yeah, so I'll start with it. We recognized in last year we did receive feedback. It was really late last year, where registration was in mid-March. Historically, it's been in February, so that's something that we've been reviewing and looking at how we can change. Every jurisdiction is a little different. Finalizing as we kind of talked about spaces, and so there are some of those areas that we have to take into consideration to ensure we can have the correct information by the time that we can run camps. But that is definitely something that we are continuing to look at, and we actually attend meetings quarterly with all the camp managers throughout the region. It was just I think last week or this week, and it is with Fairfax, Loudoun, Reston, Herndon, Prince William, and where we can talk about and kind of review what each other is doing and learn best practices and where we can try and align as much as possible.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Any concluding remarks from the presenters? Okay, well, thank you so much
yeah,
for,
thanks for having us.
yeah,
Yep,
we
thank
really,
you.
really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. Our kids really benefit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone.
We're not on official business, but I
Yeah.
do want to make sure that everybody saw the chat.
Oh, yes, I can relay what was discussed.
Jean gave us a little
Yes.
note.
So Jean detailed about the Plan Langston Boulevard item that was at the county board on Saturday. It was an update on the Lee Community Center and its park. And she detailed that Plan Langston Boulevard removed the language to consolidate all community centers in the corridor. And there is strong support to keep the park.
Sorry, to clarify, they removed the language about consolidating them and therefore are keeping the park, or we are supporting them keeping a park that is no longer being kept?
Hard to,
You want me to try?
yes.
Previously, the park was threatened by the language about consolidating.
Mm,
So now that language has been removed. Subsequent to that, there has developed strong support for keeping the park.
Okay, so the park is maybe at risk?
It's maybe at risk.
Okay,
Well, because it's
Not
got a
cool.
really, a lot of other reasons are, it's got a very old building that's gonna have to be renovated if it's gonna be kept.
Hmm,
And it's got a lot of programs that are starting to be shifted to other buildings that the neighborhood is not too happy about that. And so it's,
And so you have to keep the building in order to keep the park.
no, but something's gonna have to be done.
Sure.
So that's kind of driving it. She asked us to push for, and the last time she was here, to push for what's it called, a review process. What's it
Mhm.
called? No, it's a special vocabulary word that I forgot. Anyway, it's whatever the review process is for getting the park under review sooner.
Oh,
Whatever.
CIP. Was it through the CIP?
Is that the capital plan?
Yeah,
No,
no?
I forgot. I have it written down.
It was like a long ranger,
Oh, okay.
I can't remember which one.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not sure how we would do that.
Well, I think my recollection is that what they wanted to make sure was that they would go through a regular process where the community and advocates would have an opportunity to make their voices heard. And they were concerned that the language that was in the Langston plan would tilt the balance toward accelerating the putting dense housing on the site, and that feelings of the neighborhood be of no concern. So they wanted to make sure that they could be heard through a regular process.
And that could actually entail park master planning effort, actually, now that
I
I'm
think
thinking
that's
about
what
it.
it was.
Yeah,
yeah. Right, would it be a possible zoning to have a high density building, an apartment building with the park there still, or would that just not?
I guess it really depends on what is called out within the Plan Langston Boulevard plan to see what potential density and would be accommodated within the zoning district that's there or that's being proposed. And then also within the general land use plan to see essentially what uses would be able to coexist within that area.
Yeah, it's not a big park.
Mm,
Yeah, but to answer your
It's
question.
not a tiny park either.
It's not a postage stamp, but it's not, I mean,
It's not like Quincy Park size, right?
no, it's got a basketball court, it's got a diamond,
It's got a baseball.
playground and a small
Mm.
baseball diamond, a little more grass for, kids soccer, small kids soccer. That's about it.
It's a very popular field for t-ball.
And for baseball, yeah, no, it's heavily used by the kids, baseball leagues.
Is it the one with the school nearby? Is that a different one that people?
No, Lee Center is right. It's right
Lee
there.
said, okay.
Yeah. It's right, if you're on Langston, toward the western side where, what is the name? District Taco is.
Oh,
The
okay.
south side, there's a building that was
It's not
behind.
Langston Arts Center, is it?
No, that's
That's
Easter. That's right
different,
near
okay.
Cleve.
There's a lot happening on Langston.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is way on the western side,
Cool, got it.
right before you get to, near the appliance place, the
Mm,
spray and spray. and something.
the Rivendell School?
Oh, Sloppy Mama's barbecue, of course.
So yes, from Sloppy Mama's barbecue, just west of where the shopping center is actually. So
Mm.
Wait, is south on the top?
No, I think this is.
north is up here,
North is on the
south,
top,
yeah.
okay.
So yeah, the community center is just south of Langston.
Oh, there's Overley.
Yeah, and you can't see the park from Langston. You have to actually go
Hmm.
south to see.
Okay. So it's kind of down the road from the swimming pool. So, okay, great. All right, well, any more discussion on that? All right.
With that, I can continue with the staff report. So no new items to be discussed related to what was sent out at our, or for the invitation to this meeting. However, I did want to address that since we are going to be meeting in person for our next meeting, something fun that we did prior to the pandemic was sharing snacks and treats for the last meeting of the year. So I'll be bringing in a few things, and anyone within the commission, you're more than welcome to do so, and we'll be able to have a little party during the meeting.
Do you want to do a cookie exchange? Where you bring a dozen cookies and you come?
Not eat them all
Okay,
here.
never mind.
So
We'll
that's
just eat the cookies here, not share them with our people.
So that's the only addition I have.
Okay, did anybody have any comments on the report that Marcos? All right, commission member reports. Does anybody want to, let me see, what do we can't fill any vacancies.
No, not tonight, fortunately.
So we have, quite a few vacancies where Cole used to be. If anybody feels moved, you can let me know tonight. We can't vote on it or anything.
What is he or was on?
Okay, Alcova Heights Park renovations. That's completely done, isn't it?
It's all on the agenda. If you look,
Yes.
It says vacant in red.
Sorry?
Previously, with the
Yeah.
exception of the neighborhood conservation advisory committee.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so all of there is.
there's also the Public Facilities Review Committee that Sedco used to have. So that would be another. And then I believe we have an opportunity for one of our site plan committee projects alongside Adam with the red line, and we would need to identify a second.
yeah, that actually came into play last week because it was originally scheduled, there was a meeting scheduled a few weeks ago, but then they postponed it and it happened to be rescheduled on the day I was at.
Mhm.
I see it, the back was on here. But maybe you should give us a little update on what happened.
Is she online though?
Yeah.
Oh, well, she can't talk because we don't have a quorum.
Yeah.
She texts you.
But hold your thoughts if you want. I mean, I guess we can always reconvene at the next meeting to see what folks would be interested in as well, or.
Yeah,
also-
or you can actually,
separately.
without commitment, just discuss if you would like to be on any of these things now.
Right, you can show up there, public meetings.
Yeah.
So you're officially,
To me, the most important one is the Forestry and Natural Resources Commission. It's a little bit taxing because you have to go to 2 commission meetings a month.
yeah, two.
What-
Honestly.
Oh, okay.
Isn't Alcova Heights pretty much done?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't believe moving forward with the subsequent phase, but let me just.
And I'm happy to continue on with Gulf Branch,
Yeah.
but several of us were on Gulf Branch. So, what is public facilities?
So that the PFRC is the body that reviews any county-owned facilities that are to be constructed. So anything from the art bus center,
Oh,
fire stations, and even APS buildings as well.
okay. You know what that is.
So basically the SPRC for public projects.
Okay.
So that's open?
Yeah.
Gary, I see that your hand is up, but unfortunately, we can't accept PRC comment virtually because we don't have in-person quorum. So
We can't stop you from putting text in the chat.
We also
Okay.
can't stop you from texting
Well-
me right now. Tell me.
Yeah, okay. I will send something to Jill regarding volunteering for the 4 Mile Run Joint Task Force.
It's gonna be out with a-
We didn't hear that. We did not hear that.
Thank you, Gary.
That won't be-
You're welcome.
I'll be happy to step in for Gulf Branch,
Excellent.
but yeah, I can't do forestry, no choice. That's a Thursday night meeting.
How often does the PRC meet?
the PFRC, it depends on the project. So if there are no projects on the docket for public review, then they may not meet for months at a time, depending on what's available.
Well,
I think the last project that we had was the fire station actually at on Langston Boulevard, actually.
yeah, so I'm on APS Facilities Advisory Council, so
Mhm.
I would be a small extension from that,
Okay.
in terms of like, you know,
Yeah.
knowledge of what's going on. So
Yeah.
I'd be willing to do that.
Oh, that's great. We'll vote on it next time, but you're a shoo-in. Okay, all right. Well, that's good progress.
Sure, no one's.
I think we should
Run
declare
against me.
victory.
No one's gonna stiff arm you.
So thanks to everybody who gave little updates. I thought this was interesting from Neil. I guess he can't talk about it. About the, there's opportunity for input on the county Vision Zero. I want to make sure everybody saw that and the links are there if you want to get comments. All right, on to other business, right? Any more discussion on that? Okay, other business, so letters to the county board, use permits for public spaces, design processes. You and Adam, you and Trudy, we're gonna be working on that letter.
Right, still working on it,
I don't think there's any big rush.
right.
Yeah, I believe that item is scheduled at this point for the December county board meeting. Just double check what the date for that would be. That is either on December 16th or December 19th.
Okay, all right,
Right around the time of our next meeting.
all right.
Are we discussing the letter about the Ballston Holiday Inn project? It was in the email that Marco sent. I didn't know if that was a point of discussion or just for.
That's coming up
Right.
next.
Oh, okay.
Under the matrix.
Oh, thanks, sorry. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for introducing that topic.
Yeah. Now next.
So this is just an introduction. Trudy and I have been talking for a while now about copying the effort that C2E2 did. So when we go to these, review processes for development plans, such as the one that was brought up tonight with the Clarendon Church, we have a consistent set of ideas and matrix, to use so that from one project to the next, we're, attempting to evaluate at a consistent level. The point being to provide feedback to the development community that they should listen to us, that we're not going anywhere, and that we have consistent needs and desires that they act on. So this is the effort that this is their blank. I think this is their blank one, right?
I believe so.
No, this is the. Anyway, if you look at the letter that Marco sent around, whoops, can't talk all of a sudden. See the one that's filled in. It's very long. It's like 3 pages. More than many pages. And they give a meets, fall short, or exceed. And they have this nice little color coding. Yellow for it, red for fall short. or it exceeds. And then they come up with a system of percentages for each of the different categories. And then they give the overall score at the top. So, and this one gets a 60% score. They, of course, are much more concerned than we would be about carbon, embedded carbon in the building. With their energy efficiency, whether they're green and things like that. But they also do have things that we are concerned with, which is, bird-friendly glass, stormwater management, biophilia, light pollution, and water use. They actually also have a category for diversity, equity, which I thought was. So another nice thing is, if you look at their letter, the letter basically writes itself with the matrix filled in. So I find this appealing because I get a little overwhelmed when I get in those meetings and I'm not really sure what I'm looking at, and have this little guideline is kind of nice. But I really would like to hear any feedback. It's just an introduction. I was approached tonight at the party by Carolyn Haynes about the possibility of, forestry is looking at doing something similar, and the possibility of collaborating. Joan McIntyre from C2E2 told me that they want to revamp this a little bit, and so it's a state of flux, but they feel like it's been pretty helpful. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about it again.
Yeah, so we've kind of talked about this, I think, a little bit, especially like at the beginning of the year, when Trudy was talking about our goals and so that. One of the things we talked about was having a checklist or some guidelines for us when we attend all these SSRE to know what to do. Because like I find myself, I was like, well, I know I'm supposed to talk about, make sure that throughout parks, but it would be good again to have some specific things that I should be looking for in these plans.
Yeah. Okay.
That I'm not just basing on what's in my head, but what's on paper. So I'd be all for doing this. Question is, someone would have to create a draft.
Yeah.
I think I also have a thought on this too, and that is I think we have to think hard about what we want to include on it. For the Parks and Rec Commission, but we're also on all of these committees that often have no open space or recreational component to them. So the obvious entry, the obvious concern of ours isn't in play. Like I am now on the Goodwill site. There will be no recreation or parks on the Goodwill site. However, we do have a seat at the table and we do have a voice. So I think we need to consider how we want to use that. And this could be a very useful guiding document for that. So you're right. I mean, we're not going to have all the same concerns as another commission, but they do overlap.
They do overlap.
And particularly if we're going to push the county for a new plan for climate change. It seems a little disingenuous for us to say, oh yeah, but that really isn't our concern, so we're not going to ask questions.
I think the issue I'm having, not to say that this isn't a good idea, but like C2E2 has the benefit, they're the Energy Climate Commission, they're checking this against the LEED scorecard, right? The LEED scorecard lays out explicitly, like these are the requirements the building needs to meet. And they're referencing other sources in this as well. They're setting like hard requirements for architecture and design of buildings. So they have these very quantifiable hard metrics that they can say, this meets this, check, and it's very quantitative and very objective. And we don't have that same like privilege here, where it's a lot squishier, it's a lot more subjective. So I think in addition to this scorecard, we're going to need some sort of rubric for all of our like users to say this defines meets, this defines exceeds, because it's not going to be as simple as is it LEED gold or is it LEED platinum?
Okay, yeah.
Like that's easy for them to very objectively assess, but we're going to need to say like, does this align with the vision of the sector plan that this building is located within. And that's like a lot harder to assess than these requirements of like meeting minimum energy requirements, things like that.
We would not call ours a scorecard per se, in terms of like,
Yeah.
not being an actual score, but we could have.
Rubric would be a
Yeah, no,
better-
yeah, agree, yep, and it's some kind of like a sort of a color coded level system where it's not like 67%, but it's like green, yellow, red,
Yeah.
it is a big concern, or is it like, hey, these guys are doing great?
Right,
Kind of thing where
yeah.
Well, as you were talking, I couldn't agree more, but I also was recalling the conversation that we had from the Arlington County staff people. Names escape me at the moment, but they were expressing a similar problem with the definitions of green. Green, is it, is it plastic leaves stapled to the wall, or is it actually alive? And have you got a plan for watering it?
Yeah.
So,
It was our urban design.
urban design team.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it is worthwhile for us to think of things like that. So for example, percentage tree cover, percentage native plant cover, contiguous, not native habitat. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think the FNRP will help.
Yeah.
It sets out some of those definitions that have been missing previously in county guidance. But I do think some of it's going to come down to like, I'm just thinking about the recent projects that we've been in Clarendon, where it's like they did this huge sector planning process a couple of years ago, and now all the site plans are coming through. And a lot of the site plan work is saying, okay, does this match what we agreed to in the sector plan process? And the answer is often no. And so then it's this negotiation process. Okay, well, how far does it deviate? Why does it deviate? Is the community happy with the deviations? And the site I was on most recently, like stalled out because of major conflicts with the sector plans. The Silver Diner site is like in limbo right now because they've like come to an impasse on design components that differ from the sector plan. So it will require probably maybe a bit more work than what C2E2 does, because they can look at the lead worksheets and it's like a very easy match to those guidelines. But it is definitely a good resource. I just think we should be mindful of some of the limitations here, given like our purview relative to C2E2.
So, I mean, one thing we can do is relative, you mentioned this private sector plan. So we don't have one place to look for, but we do have places that you look. So one of the criteria could be, how much it matches the sector plan for where that building is, or where the.
But I mean, a particular element of the sector plan, I mean, do we want to break it down? Well, we don't have.
Yeah.
Only certain parts that we're concerned about. We're not concerned
Right.
about everything.
Yeah.
The sector plan often specifies, like, is this site supposed to have open space eventually? Like one of those special clubs that Bill back in the day and I were involved in was about a site that had been like earmarked for a corner of it to be open space. So I think it is relevant, and the sector plan often specifies like design guidelines and some sector plans more recently. And to your point, sidewalks are open space. So that's what I always think about, like sidewalk space, the pedestrian experience. That is in our scope of work. This neighborhood where I live, there's very few parks. There's a ton of sidewalks. Sidewalks are my open space when I'm recreating. So that's something to keep in mind with the Goodwill site. It's a very pedestrian heavy area. So the sidewalks are definitely in our domain there.
Also, biking is recreation, therefore anything like bike facilities,
Yeah.
bike paths. I definitely work on that with my site reviews. That could be a part of the rubric, right? Is what are the bike facilities? I also thought, I don't know if it would be pitting public-private versus public open spaces of, are within a quarter mile, how many public-private spaces are there? How many public open spaces are there? And if the answer is always a public-private space, that kind of starts to look like something and add up. So might be worth like noting down in this theoretical rubric.
Yeah, okay.
One other thought is that if the county staff is struggling with this, and we're struggling with the definitions, the odds are excellent that C2E2 and urban forestry are doing exactly the same thing. Might this be something where is Interjag a avenue to hash out some of these definitions?
Should be, yeah. Carolyn approached me today about that, so. Yeah, and she chairs Interjag. Interjag is Natural Resources Joint Advisory Group. NRJAG.
Then it's separate-ish, like how does that?
No, I don't know how it got started, but it's an advisory. We're a commission and it's an advisory group.
It's the representatives from the three
Mm.
constituent. Because it's not a commission advisory group, it's subject to different rules. It's not the public, like the forum, in-person forum thing, that's fine.
Okay.
Even though we are an advisory body as well, we also make,
It's a different-
Yeah.
Yeah, advisory body umbrella within
Yeah.
that, right, commission.
so what are the three commissions that are part of that?
D2E2, us, and urban forestry.
And who's our rep?
There's
Me
three of
and
us.
Sarah and Trudy.
There's
Okay.
three from each commission
Got it.
in energy.
Such a cool name.
Really is.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Fighting.
I always think military lawyer when I
Well, I think, I mean, Sarah's exactly right, that we don't have a easy checklist to work off of. But even if we don't have one, I mean, so maybe the metrics end of this isn't as applicable. But it could still be very useful just as a document to take into a meeting, particularly with people who haven't done this or haven't done it very much, to give them some guidance on what they should be looking for and what questions they should be asking.
Right, yeah.
I agree with that entirely, from a personal point of view. From a more strategic point of view, I would love for a developer who goes into one meeting to hear the same questions as he hears or she hears if they go into another meeting. So, the consistency idea, we're always going to be asking these questions, so get ready.
Right, I mean, it gives some kind of a standard, even though it's not like an official standard, it's like a set of expectations that we have for OBs, and it's a shared one.
And to not be opaque about that, to be
Yep.
aggressive. All right. So the progress on that will be, at the next meeting, Trudy will come with a, list of our, with the document of our work plan that we need to vote on, and that will be in it. And at that stage, sometime in January, we'll get a group together and start actually working.
Like a subcommittee.
All right. Okay, and then the last, any more on that? The last thing is the community energy plan update. So, as you know, from the newspaper, we discussed it last month. And we discussed it also at the Enerjag again. Forestry is probably going to vote to send a letter. They have their meeting on Thursday to, I guess, Demetra McBride, who is in charge of community energy plan update. It's been in place since 2019. It's supposed to be updated every 5 years. So it's about time for it to be updated. Since then, we have this new position of the, countywide climate guru, Bill Eggers. And what's his title? Anyway.
I like climate guru.
Climate czar.
Something. Because we're supposed to be
Without
taking a
dark
whole, yeah. I was on.
Most czars don't have dark powers.
So he is the climate policy and coordination chief.
Thank you. I never would have come up with that. So, back when we were talking about the whole of government approach to climate, that's what spurred his hiring. So I don't know what impact he'll have on that, or if he's the appropriate person to approach, but,
What does the letter say?
yeah, it's a very awkward. Figure out how to say this so it doesn't get the.
I don't
Any
think-
reporters in the line?
Yeah, unless anyone on the line is lying about their identity.
Well, did anybody see him on last time? At any rate, so they're trying to get ahead of the process. The process for updating the CEP really doesn't start till next year. So forestry is going to ask, I think, that the county consider elevating the community energy plan, which is already one of the 12 components that now forestry is gonna be part of if the county board votes for it, into a more of a climate action plan, CAP, which a lot of communities have. Like every county has it, you know, different states, some states have it. And so the idea being that, you know, stormwater's in one silo, and natural resource, another silo, and there's overlap, but where does it reside? I mean,
What if we were to, I mean, suggest that instead of changing that, because I mean, I think there is a good reason to have an energy plan, about maybe tasking this chief with the task of taking all of these plans and coming up with a climate action or climate, whatever you want to call it, based on those plans. Because all those plans contain sort of components of this, and why kind of, you know, make the energy plan take on components of these other plans, and instead let it just be what it is, and have some kind of like a, I would say an overarching plan, but some way that kind of ties them together and says, based on these plans, here is our what we're doing to combat climate change or to adapt to climate change.
I think the opportunity is the CEP update is already like planned. It's already scheduled for next year.
Right.
So to like add a new plan component is a much longer like lead time process. The CEP update is happening next year, regardless of whether the scope is expanded or not. So there's an opportunity here to like leverage that planned and happening update to expand the scope to address some of these other themes. Rather than just like it's, I mean, it's called the community energy plan. It's very heavily focused on climate change mitigation. Like it's pretty much exclusively about reducing carbon emissions in county buildings. So it's not that far of a leap in my perspective to expand it slightly. It doesn't have to be the all-encompassing place for climate change adaptation and mitigation in the county, but similar to the forestry and natural resources plan can set out some of those like guiding principles that all of the planning components should be thinking about through all of their separate processes. Like we have the definition of biophilic design for the first time ever in county documents, right? Like that's relevant across all of the comp plan components, but it lives in forestry and natural resources. So I think the vision from the other commissions at Enerjag is something similar for climate change, that sets out like those overall priorities and talks about how the different plan components should be speaking to each other, rather than kind of pulling pieces out of stormwater and pulling pieces out of transportation and smashing them into this plan. If that makes sense.
I mean, but would it actually help what I perceive as one of the problems, which is that, you know, the community energy plan is not working well with the transportation plan in as much as we don't, you know, we know that we should be doing, you know, electric buses and providing for electric buses, and yet, you know, we're not doing it. And so would making this change to the climate, to the community energy plan, to make it into climate action plan, actually achieve the goal of getting those concepts into the transportation?
I mean,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't have the answer to that. I don't have a crystal ball. But what I do know from like planning processes is like, you know, we have the opportunity next year to update the CEP, and we have the opportunity potentially to expand the scope into a broader climate action plan. If we can use that process to get goals on paper that are broad climate goals, not just building energy goals, but across, again, like go across several lines of effort within the county and several elements of the comp plan. When those other plan components come up on their time to update, they will have to refer back to other comp plan components that are relevant. So we say now, like, we're going to set these goals for climate change that affect transportation. The transportation plan gets updated in, you know, 2-3 years, however long it is. Their first step in that process will be, okay, well, what do our other comp plan elements tell us about the future of transportation in our county? And they'll say, oh, well, we have this goal that we need to meet now, right? Like, that is in theory how the process is supposed to work. Obviously, theory, practice,
Yeah.
not the same. But I think that's like the vision David has, is like getting things on paper of like goals and priorities and missions, visions, whatever is like the important first step. And this is an opportunity for us to do that rather than waiting for the next transportation plan, stormwater plan, whatever, update in 10 years.
I guess that is the issue. So with another problem or another aspect of all this is the implementation of community energy has been less than stellar.
Yeah.
And I don't know to what extent that is because it's not well incorporated.
Yeah.
I mean, there are just and they sometimes often run up against each other.
Yeah.
If it was, we usually don't write these things to be easy. We have aspirations of them, and people do not meet them. It's just, we're not, it's unlikely that these very aspirational documents that we're going to meet them, particularly with the other desires that the county and its citizens have, that sometimes run up against them.
Quick side note on the electric bus situation, APS is putting in their CIP direction funding for figuring out how they can switch over their infrastructure to be able to handle that. And I know that the county and school system have they share the trade center where they share the space for buses. And I can't help thinking that that's an opportunity to get the county to look toward as well, because you're going to be dealing with the infrastructure of being able to support that, it's right there. So.
Well, I know people have been frustrated that the county is not providing infrastructure for electric city buses, but are you talking about electric school buses?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, that's really important. I mean, there are whole nonprofits devoted to electric buses. So, okay, well, we've figured this out.
So what's the action item here? Is someone looking for us to?
Keep chewing on
support?
it.
Well, I think forestry is gonna go forward. I know, I don't think 2E2 is. We can't do a ladder tonight anyway, because we don't have enough people.
Right.
So I think let's just keep doing on it. Keep it in the back of your minds as you're going about, your other business in Arlington, and see if you get any great insights about how to, move this forward.
How long is it our new policy chief been on the job?
Oh, he was hired about a year ago, a year and a few months ago.
Has anybody talked to him about it?
Has anybody had invited him to one of their meetings to?
Yeah, he came to Energize.
Okay.
Oh,
He came here too.
Yeah, I thought he came to both.
Yeah, and he was at the NAACP a few weeks ago. He gets out. Do you want him to come here?
I mean, if you got questions to ask him.
Maybe
Has he expressed views on this about whether
I really don't think so.
maybe we should ask, kind of put him in a position to do that, because
We have the right to invite people, especially if we have
Absolutely.
questions that we want answered. I mean, I think we should be talking on a separate topic to, yes, about green infrastructure. We clearly have concerns about how they're implementing that around the county. A lot of us have talked offline about this.
Yeah, no.
We should invite somebody in to hear from them. about
Okay,
it.
let's
This is
make a
something
little
else.
list of who we want to invite. We want to invite Bill.
It's a completely appropriate use of our time and resources.
I'm very interested in getting input from stormwater folks about how they do their priorities for putting rain gardens, mitigating items on the outflows that go into county park streams. Because I don't think the county, I would like to understand if the county gets any credit, any MS4 permit credit or any settlement credit or any kind of credit for doing that, because it doesn't seem like it, because streams are just eroding so fast. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to go on so long.
If we're talking about inviting people to
Yes.
things, I remember last year, I think we had the sports commission joint meeting.
We will be doing that again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat, wouldn't want to be.
Potentially February or March of next year. Again, I'll have to coordinate with the sports commission staff liaison to figure out exactly what month and where it would be located, but that's something that we're coordinating.
Yeah, yeah, we usually try to do that. Anybody else? Okay.
APS. APS. I mean, they, I don't want to say they control a lot of, fair amount of parkland, in the county.
Can we all live in here? I don't know.
I would happy to talk about that. But,
Well, I mean, we could get somebody from DPR and we could find somebody from.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a fraud thing, because that's one of the problems is, especially with recreation space, is that the county and the schools don't always smoothly. And I have a number of questions I'd like to ask about.
Well, there's
that
also,
situation.
there's about recreation and then there's also about parks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two things we can talk to about. It
Um,
actually wouldn't be bad to have them both in the same.
I don't think we actually, I talked to Shruti, but I don't think we actually could bring in APS unless brought in DPR. Because
Sure, that's fine,
you
yeah. I mean,
have to be,
I'm not saying it's, in fact, I think in some ways it'd be better to have both of them there because.
well, I don't want to belabor this, but I'm enjoying it. Anybody else have anything else? Okay, all right. Well, is there any more business? If we're not really meeting, do we have to really adjourn?
We can stand up here. Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
All right.
So thank you for taking on the role of chair last few months.
Yep.
Oh,
Thank you.
You've been-
Well, yeah.
You've done a great job, and
Yeah.
I know you didn't ask for it.
Oh, okay.
Well, it passed.
It's a task. Well, thank you for